St. John Bosco, the friend of children and young people. This is a story about a priest. His name was Father John Bosco, but everybody knew him as Don Bosco. In Italy, where he lived, priests are often called Don instead of Father. A man with a dream. Everyone needs a dream, a vision to inspire them. Don Bosco, when he was very young, had a dream. A man and a lady, both of great majesty, instructed him to prepare himself for great battle. The battle appeared to be on behalf of a multitude of poor, unruly and neglected children. He was told in this dream that he had the understanding and the ability to conquer the unruliness of these children and make them his friends. This powerful dream continued to be a guiding force throughout his life, and it inspired him to become a priest. Now, when he became a priest, Don Bosco understood how he needed to live out the dream. In the city of Turin in northern Italy at that time, there was a great deal of poverty, with homeless children wandering the streets of the city. Young people had been abandoned by their families and lived in hopelessness. Don Bosco was shocked at the conditions they endured and the things they did just so they could survive and eat. So he decided that he would spend his life helping them. Now, this story may help you to follow your dreams and realise how much you can do to help those who need you.
Many years ago, in a village called Battersea in Italy, there lived a family called Bosco. Margaret and Francis Bosco lived in a small farmhouse with their sons Anthony and Joseph. They were a poor, hard-working family, but they were happy. Mama Margaret was expecting another baby, and the boys were really excited, but their dad was worried about how they would manage. Mama Margaret trusted in God. Everything will be fine. God loves us, and he will send us many blessings. The baby was born on August 16th, 1815, the day after the Feast of the Assumption of Our Lady, and was called John. Mr. and Mrs. Bosco would often read to the children and tell them stories about the life of Jesus. Together, they would thank God for all he had given them. Just before John's second birthday, Mr. Bosco died. A sad day for all the family, but Mama Margaret was strong and told the boys that their daddy was in heaven and would be looking down on them. Mama Margaret now knew that she would have to work even harder on the farm. The boys promised they would help her all they could. They worked hard in the fields, and Mama Margaret showed her sons how to sow the grain and thresh the corn. She also taught them how to feel near to God in the wonderful world that he had created. At the end of each day, they returned home to their little farmhouse. They were tired and hungry, but they always thanked God for being so good to them. Once, when John was alone in the kitchen, he climbed on a chair to get some jam from a cupboard. As he reached for the jam, he knocked over a jar of oil. It smashed to the ground. John was really worried because he knew the oil was very expensive. His mother was upset, but she forgave him because John had been honest and had told her about the accident. One warm and sunny day, as John was looking after the cows in the meadow, his friends came to play with him. It was so peaceful. Birds flew in the clear blue sky, fish swam in the stream, and water splashed over the rocks. John watched the birds singing in the sky and thought about the wonderful world around him. He knew that God was with him.
When John was about 9 years old, he had a very strange dream. Next morning, he told his mother and brothers about it. He dreamt he saw a crowd of boys fighting and swearing. John jumped and fought them to try to stop them. Suddenly, a man appeared and said, "John, fighting is not the way to make friends. If you are kind to people, they will take more notice of you and follow your example. I will send someone to help you." Next, he saw a beautiful lady, and at that moment, the boys turned into wild beasts. The lady held John's hand, and suddenly the boys changed again, but this time, they changed into quiet lambs. The lady told John, "This is how you will help young people. One day, you will understand what I mean." John's brother Anthony laughed at him. "Perhaps you're going to be a shepherd when you grow up, or maybe you are going to work in a circus." His mother told him not to get upset by the reaction of his brother. Perhaps it means you are going to be a priest and help others, she said. Every day as John worked in the meadow, he thought about his dream. He felt very happy in the beautiful countryside and decided that he would try to spread happiness and understanding amongst all those he met. John loved visiting the shows at the local country fairs. He would watch the magicians and acrobats carefully so that he could learn the tricks to show to his friends. Every day, John practiced juggling, tightrope walking, and even some magical tricks. Although this gave him a few bruises, he knew that he was now ready to put on a show. At his first show, a small crowd gathered to watch him. They cheered and clapped when John juggled with fruit and laughed when he made a chicken fly out of a lady's purse. His brother Anthony watched him from a distance. He was jealous of him and his popularity. "He's good for nothing," he said. "All he can do is fool around." The crowd cheered and begged John to show them their favourite trick, walking the tightrope. John agreed, but before he did so, he read the gospel to them, and together they prayed. This indeed was a clown with a difference. At Easter, in 1826, when John was 11 years old, he made his first Holy Communion. His mother had helped him to prepare for this day for a long time. She had always taught her children about Jesus and had set them a good example by going to church regularly herself. Although not all children went to school in those days, John was clever and had a sharp memory, so his mother sent him to a small school nearby to learn how to read and write. From then on, John was able to tell his friends all that he had learned. His brother Anthony was even more jealous of him. Anthony would often argue with John and try to destroy his books. "Studying is a waste of time," he said. "You need to be big and strong to work on a farm. You don't need all these books." John's mother found him a job at a nearby farm with a family called Molier. Mr. and Mrs. Molier were very impressed by John. He was cheerful, hard-working and intelligent. He was well-behaved and regularly went to Mass. John spent 2 very happy years working on the farm. He continued to read his books and made many new friends. He told them stories from the life of Jesus and still found time to put on little shows for them. When John was about 14 years old, his uncle Michael came to bring him home. He told John that his brother Anthony was much calmer now and that his mother missed him. One day, John went to hear some missionaries preach, and he also met a priest called Father Colosso. After the service, John told the priest how much he had enjoyed his sermon. "How much of it do you remember, John?" John told him he had listened carefully and had remembered all that he had said. To his amazement, John repeated the sermon word for word. The priest was so surprised and told John he had a great future and asked him if he was going to school. "I'm not," said John, "but I want to. I would like to study to become a priest." Father Colosso promised he would help John with his studies. 1 year later, in 1830, Father Colosso died, and John found out that he had left him some money for his studies. John was so upset at the death of the priest, he gave the money to Father Colosso's nephews and told them that he did not need the money because God would look after him. John began his studies to become a priest at the school in Castel Nuovo. The school was about 12 miles away, and every day John walked to school. Although he was tired after the long walk, he studied hard. The other children did not work as hard as John, but they admired the way he concentrated on his studies. John had no money, but the local families helped him to continue his studies to become a priest.
John stayed with many different families during this time, and they were delighted to have such a hard-working young man in the house. He learned all kinds of trades, such as shoemaking, sewing, ironworking, and carpentry. In his spare time, he also studied music. Later, John worked as a waiter at the nearby Pianta Cafe. He kept the school for the men as they played pool. He was given 2 bowls of soup every day and a place to sleep under the stairs. John was often very tired and hungry at the end of the day. This was a very difficult time for John,
but he continued to pray and study by candlelight under the stairs. One night he had an extraordinary dream. He dreamt he heard his teacher dictate a Latin text for him to translate. The next day, the exact text was included in his test. John got such a high grade, the teacher thought he was cheating. John also had the same dream he had when he was 9 years old about the boys fighting. Again, he saw the beautiful lady. She said to him, "Be humble and courageous. Later you will understand what this means." John studied hard. He always got good marks in tests and started to make many new friends. He was popular with the other children because although he worked hard, he would always offer to help others with their work. One day, John suggested that they all got on well together, so they should start a club. It could be a club where we do all our homework together and help each other, and afterwards we could play games. Let's call it our happiness club. At the age of 20 in 1835, John began his studies for the priesthood. He continued to meet his friends every week, and they would study together, and afterwards they would stop at a nearby chapel to pray. On June 5th, 1841, John was ordained a priest. From now on he would be called Don Bosco, which means Father Bosco. His mother was so proud of him. Her heart was so full of joy and love for her son. John told her, "When I say my first Mass, I will ask God to help me to work for young people." During the next 3 years, Don Bosco worked with another priest called Father Cafasso in Turin, a large city in the north of Italy. He found a great deal of violence and sadness there. Families were very poor and many children lived on the streets, hoping to get work to feed themselves. Don Bosco was shocked by what he saw. Each evening, Don Bosco returned to his friend, Father Cafasso, and told him what he had seen. "I feel so sorry for these children," he said. "They should be at school where they can learn a trade and also somewhere where they can play. They need someone to look after them." Father Cafasso agreed, but said there was little he could do. The prisons are even worse. They are full of thin, sad young boys. They are behind bars because they have stolen food as they are so hungry. Later that year, when Don Bosco was preparing for Mass, he heard someone shouting at a boy who was hanging around the church. Don Bosco called the boy over and asked him his name. "Bartholomew," the boy answered. Don Bosco asked him if there was anything he was good at. "Can you sing?" asked Don Bosco. "Can you whistle?" The boy could not do any of these things. He was surprised to be spoken to in a kind way. No one had ever shown him any interest before. The following Sunday, the boy returned and brought a few friends with him. As time went on, more and more of the street children came, and after Mass, Don Bosco would play football with them. The children enjoyed themselves, but Don Bosco was still sad. He wondered what he could do to help these children make more of their lives, instead of returning to the streets and to poverty. He decided to look for a suitable place for them so that they could learn a skill and find employment. He searched the streets of Turin looking for somewhere suitable and finally found a large shed on a piece of land.
Don Bosco bought the property, which included a house. He worked hard, with the help of the boys, to change the shed into a chapel and the house into a place where they could live and work. On the walls of each room, Don Bosco wrote the words, "God sees me." The boys were happy at last. They had found a home. They were now learning skills such as shoemaking, sewing, bookbinding, carpentry, and other trades. Don Bosco worked day and night to help hundreds of boys who came to him. He found them jobs and helped those coming out of prison to start a new life. The boys who had once lived on the streets had found a home and happiness at last. They were able to learn and play. Don Bosco was a kind man and a good teacher. He taught the boys about God. The boys respected him. They often talked of the ways he helped others and how somehow he always managed to provide for them. Don Bosco devoted his life to helping as many of these poor boys as he could. The city officials thought he was crazy. No one in their right mind cared about these poor children. Many people warned him about helping the street children. Some even tried to hurt him. Often, when Don Bosco was in danger, a large, mysterious grey dog would appear from nowhere and protect him. Don Bosco worked very hard. He did not take care of himself. All he thought about was the boys and giving them hope for the future. He often said, "My life I will spend entirely for you." After a while, he became very sick and almost died. The boys prayed night and day for him, and gradually he grew stronger and eventually recovered. Don Bosco went to stay with his mother until he was feeling better. However, he did not forget the street children. He wanted to do even more for them. He wanted to build more homes and schools and churches and get other priests to help him. Don Bosco got together with some of the older boys and told them of his plans to open more schools and help even more children. He told them of his dreams and how he knew Our Lady would help him. "We will start a whole new community of priests and brothers and call ourselves Salesians, meaning we will be kind and gentle, like St. Francis of Sales." The boys looked at him in amazement, but they knew that he was very determined, and with the help of Our Lady, his dream would come true.
It was customary on feast days to do something special. Don Bosco asked each boy to write down a blessing they would like to receive. One of them, a boy called Dominic Savio, wrote, "Please help me to become a saint." Dominic Savio worked hard to become the kind of person he felt he should be. Whenever he saw anyone in trouble, he tried to help them. Everyone realised that of all the boys, Dominic was special. With the help of the other boys, they formed their own club to spread peace and happiness to other people. Shortly after starting the club, Dominic became very ill and died just before his 15th birthday. Some years later, Dominic was recognised as a very special person and he was made a saint. He is now the patron saint of children. Soon everyone got to hear about Don Bosco and his good work. People from miles around, young and old, rich and poor, wanted to meet him. Every morning he would meet with people. He would speak to them, help them, comfort them and pray with them. Don Bosco helped many more boys. Soon the chapel became too small. "We will build a great church and dedicate it to Mary, Help of Christians," he announced. His helpers suggested he would have to wait until they had enough money to build a larger church, but Don Bosco was determined. "If we wait for the money, we will never build the church. We will start straight away. Our Lady will help. The money will come," he said. The church was started, and in 1868 it was finished. Over 1,000 young people came to the first Mass. Don Bosco's dream of helping even more children had come true. Don Bosco heard of a group of young women led by Mary Mazzarello, who was working with young people. He encouraged them to become sisters and do the same work for girls as he and the other priests were doing for the boys. He told them, "Always live in the presence of God. Be gentle, patient and kind. Help your girls to love God with all their hearts." The sisters became known as the Salesian Sisters. Sister Mary Mazzarello and her sisters worked very hard for the girls, and some years after she died, Sister Mary Mazzarello was declared a saint. Don Bosco's work spread beyond Italy. He sent his Salesians as missionaries to Argentina. They not only worked for the Italian immigrants, but also travelled into the remote area of Patagonia. This was the first Salesian mission outside Italy. Many more were to follow. Very soon, priests and sisters were working in many parts of the world, helping poor children and telling them about Jesus. In one of Don Bosco's dreams, he saw many young people of all ages and of all nationalities running to meet him. The children cried out to him, "Don Bosco, we need your help. We have been waiting such a long time for you." Today, Don Bosco's work continues all over the world. Thanks to Don Bosco, children are educated and are growing up in the love of God. Don Bosco became worn out by his hard work, and although he had difficulty walking, he still continued to help children. Soon he became very ill. He told those around him that he knew he was going to die, but how much he was looking forward to meeting God. He told them how happy he had been helping children. They had been his life's work. He asked everyone to continue the work he had started, to help children to learn and love God. Don Bosco died on January the 31st, 1888, and was made a saint on Easter Sunday, 1934. He is recognised as the patron saint of teachers and of young people, especially those in greatest need.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for giving us people like St. John Bosco. He recognized the needs of young people and helped them towards a better future. Help us to be more like him, showing kindness and encouragement to others. Help us to realize that we are special and that our life is your gift. Help us to use our lives to help others to achieve their hopes and dreams. Dear Lord, St. John Bosco spent his life building a better future for all children. Help those Salesians who are still following his teaching and are educating and caring for children throughout the world. Help us to bring your message of peace to our world. Make our dreams of a better world come true. Make us your messengers of peace. Amen.